Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of If I Knew Then Mom Edition. I'm your host, Maria, and I'm so excited you're here. This podcast is all about real motherhood stories, those unfiltered, powerful lessons, which we all wish somebody would have told us before we became moms. Whether it's about healing, identity, or those tiny humans that somehow teach us more about ourselves than we have ever imagined. This space is for it all. Today, I'm honored to have an incredible guest, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
You know,
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, first thing first, are you a mom? And how many kids do you have? Their ages?
I have 2 girls. My oldest is 6 going on 7, and I have a one-year-old who is actually going on 2 in August, next month. So, yeah,
Oh,
the 2s have already started.
yeah. Funny is, when I had my first, she was sassy, man. Well, she is still sassy, but like she was not even I don't know how many months she was probably like 18 months or something, and then I go to a pediatrician, I looked at her and I was like, "Man, like, this tantrums and these attitudes," and she was like, "Yeah, the 2s usually end up being before the 2s." So I was like, "Oh, well, that's fun to know."
Yeah, I kinda wish I would've known that, because my second one, my first one, she was easy peasy. My second one, my gosh, the tantrums, the attachments, the everything. Yeah, I'm definitely going through it right now.
Oh, man. So, talk to us, tell us, more about your motherhood journey. If you would like to start, I don't know, maybe before then, during pregnancy, after pregnancy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, I didn't have Perry, my oldest, but I did have Mila. So Perry was, like I said, she was easy. That's an easy process. Mila, let me tell you, it was rough. Just pregnancy in general. I can honestly say I was gonna just stick with one kid. I was fine with it. I said, I can have one child. But then I said, well, maybe, she'd want to have somebody to play with, and you start to feel guilty and stuff like that. And I really wanted, to have a baby and, get that experience. Boy, I was one of the ones that regretted it. I tell you what, the pregnancy was so tough. I was sick all the time, um, constant heartburn, but that was just me. Everybody has their own experience, but that was mine, and the Zofran was my best friend for sure with Mila. It was my best friend because, like I said, I was always nauseous. She always made me nauseous. But, when you're laying there and when, you're about full term and you start feeling the baby at that point, it was just
You forget about all of that.
you really do. You fall into these moments where you're looking at your belly and you're touching it and you just feel, their hands moving, and it's definitely an experience. It's definitely an experience. So was labor. I did not like labor whatsoever. I actually had to be induced. And what was crazy was I went into the ER. So she came, it was about, I think she was a week late. So, I was ready. She wasn't ready. And I remember the one night I was feeling pains. But you know how they always talk about those contractions, what feels like contractions, but they're not. Well, I swear, I could have sworn to you I was feeling contractions. So I said, "Babe, I'm in a lot of pain. We gotta go. We have to go to the hospital." And we went and they tested me, nothing. Everything was fine. So I said, "Oh, okay." So they said, "We're gonna discharge you if you want to get ready to go." So I got ready to go. And next thing you know, the doctor comes back into the room and she says, "Oh, we didn't even notice, but your blood pressure has been extremely high." It was like 200 over, oh gosh, I mean, it was extreme. It was high. So they said, "So we're gonna have to induce you today." And I said, "Oh, really?" So then, of course, my blood pressure skyrocketed even more.
And more, of course.
And I was freaking out. And I said, "So can I have the epidural now?" I was like, "I need this epidural. I need it. I'm sorry. I just don't want to." It just the pains I was getting beforehand, like the ligament pains. I had those my whole pregnancy where it was just even hard sometimes to even just kinda get up. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It was just I don't miss that. Um, and then sleeping on my side, sometimes I still have trouble sleeping on my right side. But here I am bouncing around, which I do tend to do that. I apologize. But back to the hospital. So I go into the room and, I called my parents and, they were all excited. They were on their way and we let Perry stay with her grandparents. And, the first few hours was fine. I was still pushing my button. I wasn't feeling anything. And then once it came time for that medication, and for some reason I'm blanking on the name of the medication, but once they gave the medication to me and then, you know, I felt I felt everything happen and I says, "Oh no, it's coming. It's coming." So that's when my mom decided, my mother and my sister, they came in, they decided to play some music. We were singing. We were just trying to have a good old time, just trying to ignore the fact that, my contractions are getting, more and more. I'm getting closer and closer every centimeter. It just feels like the worst. How I describe it, my description of it is the worst poo of your life. It's the worst poo of your life. And they're telling you you're not allowed to go. You can't go. You can't go. And I'm like, please, I have to go. And I'm turning and I'm crying. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying to be strong. And yeah, it was rough. But once I saw her, man, like I could cry now. It's amazing. It's such an amazing thing. She came out looking like we said she looked like a old man, a mixture of an old man and a orangutan baby. You wouldn't see it now when you look at her, but I tell you what, she was that she had that face only a mother could love. I it's just yeah, my girls are they're amazing. They are a light. They really are. But having two girls is it
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling right now. I'm having a little bit of struggles because my 6-year-old tends to forget that she's 6 and not 13. Yeah. So we got that, and then we got the little one with, like I said, the tantrums. She's constantly attached. Like today, I'm surprised I even made it down here. I got her, literally clinging to my head. It just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride so far.
Yeah, my 2 well, she just turned 2 in June, and she's also glued to the hip. Doesn't like, I stepped out of the apartment, and I looked at my husband, I'm like, "Okay, I have to go." And I just stepped out because she got distracted, so I was like, "Okay, do it now before she starts having a tantrum, like a full-blown meltdown because I'm not there or because I'm leaving." So, totally understand that. But did you get your epidural, though?
Yeah, I did get the epidural.
And you're still in a lot of pain?
Once it got closer, once you hit that 7, 8, 9 centimeters, once you hit that 7, it just I couldn't take it. It was the lower back. You just felt all that pressure. That's what it was. I shouldn't say pain, I should say more pressure. It was just a lot of pressure. It was just weighing down and it just felt like you were just constipated for years. You know what I mean? It just felt like you got to hold it, you got to hold it. I'm like, no, can I just push now? Please, please, please. Can I please just push? And, they let my sister stay in there. My sister, she works in a hospital and she had her gear on and everything. So they just let her in there. So it was her, my husband, and my mother. And, they're holding my legs and, they're trying not to look. And of course, my husband kind of looks a little bit. And I'm like, I was that dramatic, screaming. I was just trying to get her out, just trying. And the relief, I tell you what, and you do forget it rather quickly. It is
Yeah.
definitely a pain that you forget real fast because you're looking at your baby and, it just everything just ceases to exist. And
Yeah.
you also take the best nap in your life and sushi tastes amazing. The fact that you get to eat sushi, because I love my sushi. I really do. And it was an experience, but I was die after that. I says, I did it. I'm not doing it again. So I got my tubes taken out. So, yeah, so now I'm just with 2 girls. 2 girls, a husband, a dog, and a cat. So we're a full house.
Wow. Yeah. So like I mentioned, I have also the 2 girls, right? I have 2 Australian Shepherds, and we're done as well. Like, my husband got his vasectomy done.
Did he
Yeah, he did, and but we kind of, like, had an arrangement already done before we even got married. We talked about that way beforehand because he was like, "I want 3 babies," and I was like, "From who?" Because no. Maximum for me is always and I have always told myself that, that I always want 2, and in case in the future, and if like, financials are good and everything's good, then I'll adopt 2, but in the meantime, God gave me 2 hands, 1 for each kid, and I admire every mom that has more than 2, and just it's yeah, it's a lot, and yeah.
and I think sometimes people don't sometimes people fail to see that, especially when you do see a mom who's out with her kids and, maybe the kids aren't acting right and, you see people judge and being a mom myself, I'm like, she don't understand the struggle she's going through right now. She doesn't want her we don't want our kids to act like that in public, but sometimes, when they're really young, that's the only way they know how to express themselves. You know what I mean? I mean, my youngest, for instance, I take her into the grocery store and I let her walk around and I kind of let her do her thing a little bit. She's taking stuff off the shelf but then sometimes she'll put it back and then or she'll put it in the cart or I'll let her hold on to something just to keep her happy, until we get the checkout. I try to give her independence, both of them. You want your kids to have some independence. But yeah, sometimes that independence, that gets them into a little bit of trouble, and it's a little bit of a struggle for mom. So guys, now apologize. Okay. Sorry.
Um, what's it called? Yeah, no, like, for example, my 2-year-old, and we did the same thing with the oldest, and we still do, like, I can't lie, half the time I'm constantly, like, having my eye out at all times because just you never know who in the world is around you, and if, being a mom and having the 2 kids by yourself and things like that, it's just always keep it, I'm always, like, on the lookout. But besides that, like, I let them you know, especially, like, my second one, like you said, I don't know what's up with the second kid, but the second one is definitely a different breed. It's just incredible. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, I kinda knew that because, like, I have a younger sibling, my younger sister, and we're the complete opposites. But I guess until you don't really go through it, you don't really understand it, Like, you don't really feel it until you go through it, and you're like,
Do you ever find yourself apologize I find myself apologizing to my mom a lot. Like, if I see something that like, my oldest does, that is completely similar to what I did, because I have a younger sister myself, and, I did the same thing as her, whenever my younger sister got something, I would get jealous, so I immediately had to have her thing. She would always wanna be around me, and I'd always, shove her away, and so now I see my oldest doing that with the youngest. It drives me up a wall. Oh my goodness. I say, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry I did that. I'm so sorry I put you through that. I'm so sorry." It's just always, because yeah, you just don't realize until you go through it yourself.
yeah. Yeah, I tell my mom, the funny thing is, like, my mom looks at me and she's like, "How do you do it?" Like, because my mom was one of those moms that, she did the best with what she had, right? What she knew, and my both of my parents. But my mom would get angry and triggered extremely fast. And obviously now as an adult, now I understand what was going on and how kids are the ones that are constantly tricking you and pushing those buttons that you didn't even know you had, but like those things like trigger you in seconds. And so I have an education background and I used to teach. I used to teach middle school and high school. So those kids usually, they don't really try to really purposely like get you upset, but they have that tendency to see how far they can go, right? And so they're throwing their tantrum, and internally, I guess the best way that I can describe it to you, like internally in my brain, the way that I see it is kind of like anger from inside out. But the outside of me is just like, okay, let's take breaths. Like try to like, automatically try for myself to also breathe with my toddlers. And my mom looks at me, she's like, Wow. And I look at her in my brain, like, in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I know you would've smacked me at that point." Like, that point, you would've smacked me. It's okay, I know. But, I do apologize to her because I'm like, I never realized how hard it was. And obviously, I mean, it's kind of hard for kids to even understand what motherhood is because not even us as mothers really understand what another mom is really going through, right? But do I catch myself apologizing to my mom? Yes, I do catch myself apologizing to my mom, and I appreciate her, before I appreciate her a lot, but now it's just like intensified because it's a lot.
It is, and, girls are tough, we're divas. We're little divas. That's what but, through all that, it's just when I see my girls, man, and I go to work. I'm currently working as a hostess at the lot, but I did put my notice in because I'm trying to pursue my real estate license. So I'm kinda jumping ship from there and just gonna just jump right into those waters, as long as everything goes well with my testing and stuff like that. I just wanna jump right into it, and I think about my girls all the time at work. When I go to work, I think about what are they doing? How are they doing? And are they proud of me? Because, I'm 38 years old and life kind of went a little backwards for me. I was doing good for a little while. I kind of faltered. So now I'm kind of picking up the pieces, and that's, why the real estate came in, and that's why, the digital marketing started coming in, just anything I can do to make a better future for them, because they mean more to me in this world than anything. They're my babies. My she's my baby. I don't see her as anything else. I don't see her as my stepchild. I see her as my child. She's my girl. She's my kid. And she definitely got a little bit of my attitude too. So we're gonna put that out there too. They definitely pick up on mama's attitude, which I try to calm it down, anytime that they do get me a little frustrated. My room is my hideout. If I get frustrated, upset, I walk downstairs, I take a breather, I, scroll through my phone, watching my Instagram, stuff like that, and just centering myself. Come back upstairs and just, reconnect because the last thing you want to do is blow up on them. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna lie, I have. I definitely have where it's just they overstimulate you to the point where you snap. You're just like, just go to your room. Just go. You just need to go. Or I need to just get away from you for a few seconds. And I'm always quick to apologize. Anytime that, maybe mom acts out of sort, like I'm sorry. Mom blew up a little bit. I apologize. It's not you, it's me. But we do need to agree that, some things need to change and, we'll talk. And, me and my oldest, we like to have our little talks, little heart to hearts. She'll say, Mom, I think we should have a little talk. Okay, let's go talk. So she does like to do that. Girls' days, she's all about her girls' days. It's just, I don't know. It's just so much of the good outweighs the bad, you know?
Quick note for parents managing family finances can be stressful, right? I've been hearing from a lot of parents who feel the same way. Tools like SoFi and Monarch make it easier to track spending, plan for the future, and feel more confident about your money. Definitely worth checking it out. I'm linking both of them below in the show notes. Make sure to check it out. Yeah,
There you go.
definitely. Oh my God, that's beautiful because that is so important. And, I applaud you because there's a lot of parents that don't acknowledge it or it's hard for them to acknowledge it. And it's okay to understand that it is hard to acknowledge and to apologize to your kids. And it takes a lot to be able to get to their level and be like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry that I blew up because the other day, my 4-year-old, I didn't scream at her or anything, but I usually talk with a very like neutral tone in the house or whatever, but she decided in a parking garage, mind you, there's no cars coming or anything, but if I don't stop that behavior, then things can actually, something could happen. And so automatically I screamed up her name and I was like, stop. And this girl freezes midway of a run and then she comes back and she's like not understanding why in the world did mom scream, you know? And then she looked at me and she was like, I don't like how you talk to me. I don't
Oh,
like the tone that you talk to me. And I was like, okay. I understand that you didn't like that, but I was, and I explained to her, I was like, but we are in a space where there's cars. And I need you to understand that I did that to keep you safe because I need to see you and you need to be next to me. I'm going to tell my dad that you talked to me bad. And it's like hard not to laugh
Yeah.
at that moment. And you're like, okay, if you need to talk to dad to tell him what happened, I can call him. But in that case, do you also want me to let him know what happened here and what you did? No. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you want, when dad gets home, you can go ahead and tell him. That's okay. I don't like how you talk to me. And she just walked away with her like head up high, kind of like, and so and then afterwards, I was like, but now she does not run. Now she like stays next to me, and then she knows that after like there's 2 cones usually in the garage, and that is where it's safe. And she's like, okay, once we get to the cones, I can let go of your hand, right? And she's always like reassuring herself, like it's okay, like right. But you know, at that moment, I didn't apologize because at the end of the day, it could be a life or death type of situation because you never know who's coming, right, to go in. But has there been times that I have, talked to her in a certain way because I'm over, I have ADHD and get overstimulated so quickly, especially when it comes to noise. And I don't know what was happening, and I reacted. Didn't scream at her, but I know that I reacted in a way that she's not used to me reacting. And she
Mhm.
just looked at me, and that is when I stopped. I closed my eyes, I took a deep breath, and then I kneeled down. And she was also having, I guess she was exhausted, and she was just also having a hard day. And I got into, eye to eye, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I reacted that way. But I need you to understand that right now, I'm asking you to please sit down." I think it was like to get into a car seat. I was like, "I'm asking you very nicely a couple of times already, and you're not listening. So I'm sorry that mommy reacted that way." And I think it's so powerful when moms actually, or anybody actually apologizes to kids because at the end of the day, kids learn that and they start learning how to be empathetic and to understand that there are consequences and you should be responsible for your own actions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you know what? And I think another thing too, a lot of what kids go through, I think it's media influence, because I notice a lot of times kids nowadays, they want to jump on a tablet. You know what I mean? And they're watching all this stuff. Like they're watching different episodes and I don't know if I can mention episodes, but like stuff like Mr. Beast and stuff like that, if that's okay to mention those. But it's, these challenges that kids are seeing and this stuff that it's feeding them, I think sometimes that causes them to act out in certain ways. You know what I mean? Because it just we look at me and my husband look at it, it's brainwashing. It's just a lot of that stuff is so brainwashing for these kids. And I think a lot of the behaviors come from it. You know what I mean? And so we try to keep our kids away from tablets. We want them go outside. That's what we did as kids. We went outside, we played, we had a good time. I remember going on my bike or riding my rollerblades or, playing with my sister until dark. I mean, we would be out until dark. My mom is calling for us to come in, and sometimes it would take her, a few tries to get us to finally come back in the house because we refused to go in the house. Nowadays, kids want to sit on the house and this the whole entire time. And it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating. And, when we noticed that, our oldest was starting to act up, my husband said, no more tablets. We're going to take the tablets away because then they lose focus. So, we're sitting there, "Perry, Perry, Perry," and she's not hearing us. "Perry!" And then finally her eyes break away from that tablet. Well, now my youngest, believe it or not, she knows how to use a phone. She knows how to use a phone. And then I guess I kinda justify it with her in a way that, when we're going out in public, if we're going to a restaurant, because now that she's getting curious, she wants to play with things or she wants to run around, and we're trying to keep her right where she needs to be in that booth with us. So she's not running into servers and she's not, causing a ruckus in the restaurant or something. So what do? I give her YouTube Kids. And what's nice about it is it has the age limit. So I have hers up until I think 2 or 3 years old, and she likes to watch these little Pac-Man things that go through, and they're just eating things, and I don't know, it must be the music or the mixture of both, but she's always going back to these little Pac-Mans, and it just all they're doing is just eating the little things that it keeps calm. So it's like, it's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. And the same I don't know. It's really hard when it comes to that, whether to say it's good or bad. I guess when it's used for good reasons, it's okay. But it's
Yeah.
once they start getting into stuff, like how babies are made, for instance. My oldest has definitely come across that. That's when that's when it starts getting really concerning because you're too young. Not yet. We're not ready for that yet.
Yeah. So with YouTube Kids, something that I've learned is that even if you put an age limit, they still find a way to get to your kids. And there's a lot of like innocent looking characters and videos out there that seem totally innocent. But if you're not really fully paying attention to the wording, I have seen some horrific like videos of like a dragon puppet that, starts singing like nursery songs and then it starts saying how they should hurt somebody or how they should hurt themselves and things like that. And you would never really, because, absolutely like no judgment whatsoever, because at the end of the day, like I said, I get very overstimulated very easily sometimes, especially when it comes to noise. And so, for example, at least in our house, like in our apartment, we only have one TV. That's it. There's only one TV. And now some like my 2-year-old, she knows how to use the phone. Right? And I think all the kids at this point, they basically are born with phones in their hands because it's just, I didn't know that our TV can go black and white or even how to do that because I'm not here playing with the phone or whatever. Like I usually get bored watching TV easily. And so, but this girl out of nowhere, she goes, grabs the remote. And when I look at the screen, it was black and white. I'm like, how in the world? Like, what did you do? That is wow. And so, for us, at least for us, what we do, like if there's I have a minivan. And so
Mhm.
I do have one of those screens so that way they don't have the tablets.
Yeah.
And what we do is download like PBS Kids, Eleanor Wonders Why. And if it's Disney, we do what's it called? It's the bear in the big blue house.
Yeah, Bear the Big Blue House.
Uh-huh. Or, and something that I did do is actually take away completely YouTube because I don't know, unless it's like Miss Rachel. I think that's the only one that I really like full blown like Miss Rachel all the way. But besides that, at least with my girls, I realized that when they were watching YouTube, no matter what it was, each time that I would take it away, the tantrums were horrific. And, you know, we took away, my husband and I, we talked about it. We took away Paw Patrol. We took away, what was the other one that she was, PJ Masks. And all of these shows are still like cute and whatever, but the thing is like they're so overstimulating that each of them they would take it away. Like she was just so angry. So, now in the restaurants, for example, I think that's like usually my last resort, especially like you said with the little one. And I would put like, Miss Rachel or Mickey Mouse, Clubhouse and just leave the phone as far as away from her because then she has blocked my phone before for 2 hours.
2 hours.
For 2 hours. Yeah, and so no more no. And the craziest thing is, like, I child auto lock the phone and still manages to block my phone for 2 hours, so I was like, "Yeah, no, like, you're not touching that at all." And so, but when we're out and I guess I'm just, like, over it and it's just, like, so already okay, like, Miss Rachel, but usually I like to have my bag is usually filled with, like, the little magnet toy, like, the magnet tiles that they come, like, the smart ones, and so I have that. I have little, like, princesses and animals and whatever and coloring and things like that, and so usually that's my last resort, but there's sometimes that it becomes the first resort depending on how the day has gone, and so, we never know what's going on in the other mom's life that we see around, and at the end of the day, like I said, no judgment because we gotta do whatever we gotta do at the moment.
Every mother has their way of, they know what to do with their kids. It's just
Mhm.
a matter of whether or not that child's gonna listen that day. You
Yeah.
know, and they're also we gotta remember they're little, they're still figuring themselves out. Like my 6-year-old, she's still trying to figure herself out. She's only 6. She's still figuring out the world and she's now mind you, she's already got it figured out. She's always let us know she's got it figured out, but she's still figuring it out, and we let her know like, hey, there's still a lot you gotta learn. And especially with the little one. It just you gotta remember that we have to try to be patient. We have to be patient because they are learning from us. The way we react to them is how they're gonna react to others.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And especially in school, my older, she's in kindergarten going in first grade. And kindergarten it's a reality show. At least at least in her school, it was a reality show. I mean, I boyfriends? I said, "No, we're in kindergarten. We don't have boyfriends in kindergarten." And there was probably like 3 different ones, and then the things that they talk about, and I'm just
It's funny. When I was 18, I worked in summer camps and I always wanted to work with kindergartners and first graders because they're so funny. And the stories that they will tell you is just like what, and they will tell you everything that's going on in their house and what the dad did. And, there was one time that they were competing about whose dad had one of them was like, well, my dad had a speeding ticket this morning. And then I was like, well, my dad had diarrhea. And it was kind of like, who was having the worst day? And I started laughing because I was like, what is this? Like, this is the funny. And they were just literally competing about whose dad, I guess, had the worst. I don't know what they were competing about, but it was just it was funny, man. It was just, kids are just very entertaining. And as they get older, it's even more, I think, just more funny. It's just, yeah.
well, wait till they're teenagers, though, especially female teenagers. My husband, I says, "Oh, babe, I'm so sorry." I said, "You're gonna deal with 3 cycles, and wait till we're in sync." And he said, "That's when I'm gonna build my bunker. I'm just gonna hide away. Just get away." I said, "That's probably the best idea." I said, "Because
Uh,
the emotions are gonna be running high for that."
Oh, yeah. I remember, like, with my dad so my dad is, like, he's such a dad, like, girl dad, like, for sure, 100% because he would we would be cramping with our periods, and he would come in with, like, the tea, "Do you need anything?" And he'll sit down and try to rub our head and try to, like, and I don't know what it is or what it was because it doesn't happen to me anymore, but I don't know what it was that just his presence would just trigger me. Just that week that that I was on my period. And so now I look at my husband, I'm like, just to let you know, there's always a possibility that once a month you are gonna be the one person that they don't even want to listen or even like acknowledge the fact that you're there. And so now it's gonna like, okay, have father and daughter dates and when they're feeling bad or sad, just acknowledge their feelings, hug them, ask them if they want a hug. And then, once we get to preteens and teenagers, like my dad was my first date. Like he was the one that showed me what should be a date, right? And he came and brought me flowers and opened the door so chivalrous and things like that. But dads play such a huge and important part in the girls' lives that, yeah, like us moms are very important, but in the reality of the self-esteem and our value really comes from how dads treat them as little girls and as they treat their spouses, right? And so, but yeah, no, my dad, I love him to death and he's just like beyond this world amazing, but I couldn't stand him the days that I was on my period. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, "No,
I
I don't want tea."
my dad, when my dad was still alive, he was a good guy too. And my husband, the way he is with the girls, and let me tell you, the first one, he heard it to the grapevine that he had a kid and he fought tooth and nail for her. I mean, he did everything and and I came into it and just the amount that he had to go through, especially just those court hearings, CYF, it just, ugh, he, not a lot of dads out there do that, you know what I mean? To put up that much, and it's just a couple years. It was a couple years. It was a trying couple years for him, and these girls, they love him to death. It's so cute, they're always all over him. Perry's always all over him, jumping on him, and, they'll be on the trampoline, jumping together, doing, fencing. He's teaching her fencing, and then, she'll do her little gymnastics out there, and it's just it's amazing, and I could say so much about there's just so many just to see his interaction, it makes me think about my interaction with my dad when I was a kid. It was the same thing, I just when I see my dad, my eyes would light up. And, my dad, he struggled with alcohol. So, there's the difference, but he tried. My dad really did. He tried. He would take me to the mall. I remember there was one time I was, and I'm not even kidding you, I was probably, I don't know, 10, 11. My dad had me driving down to the Giant Eagle. He said, "Get in the driver's seat, I'm gonna teach you how to drive." I'm like, I'm young, I can't even touch the pedals. But, my dad, he did some goofy things, but he was a good dad. He had a really good heart. And, right now we're looking at a place and, thinking of all the things that we want to do with it. And, he wants to build a beautiful tree house for the girls. And he just, he's looking on making a beautiful life for them. My husband's a contractor. So he can do it. Anything he does, he puts his mind to, he can do. I mean, you see in the background right there, his flying car. I mean, just, it's just anything. So he wants to build a great future for these girls, and everything he does is for them. It's for us. He works hard every day, and, and the girls see it. They do. She's very understanding. If her dad's having a tough day, "Dad, can I rub your back? Dad, can I get something for you? Dad." She likes to be in the kitchen. She wants to learn how to cook with him. She goes to work with him sometimes. She wants to see what he's doing. He's great with these girls. He is so good with these girls. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better dad for them. I really couldn't. And
That's so awesome.
a good
That
husband. He does so much, and, the poor man he gets a lot of crap, but he's such a good guy. Such a good guy.
that's incredible, and I'm glad that you were able to find a partner like that. And it's so important, at the end of the day, especially having the girls, and like I said, having being able to have a dad like that is just tremendous. And so, one thing right now, what is one thing that kind of like the one thing that one moment of like, if I knew then moment.
If I knew then it would be so difficult with 2 girls, I may have reconsidered, but I don't know if I really would have, honestly. If I knew I don't think I would have changed anything, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything I could have changed. There's nothing I would have done differently. And I was thinking about it before we got on here, and, if I would have known then that they would be such divas like we were, I still would have went through with it. I still would have went through with it because it's just they're my everything. They really are. They're my everything. They're my heart and soul. You know, everything I do is for them, and
Yeah, I love it. I
I
thank you.
can't say anything, nothing negative. I can't say anything negative. Teresa. I can't. It's wonderful, and I hope every mother has the same experience with her kids.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to have that feeling. But, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing, those awesome stories because at the end of the day, even though obviously a lot of times we tend to have this challenging outlook about motherhood, but there's something amazing about being able to have a conversation like this of like, yeah, it's hard, but I wouldn't change it for anything. Yeah, it's hard. There have a lot of bad, yeah, but I still wouldn't, and it's just amazing because I'm pretty sure a new mom right now or a mom that's about to have the second kid is like that is gonna be hearing this episode. It's just gonna be like, okay, it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be okay.
It's going to be because you know what? They're gonna be your best friends, you know? When they get older, I cannot wait. I told Perry, I said, "When you turn 21, mom is going to be there." You know? Mila, when turns 21, mom is going to be there, you know? I wanna be there at every moment, every experience, you know?
So thank you so much, Stephanie, for being here in this wonderful episode. And if this resonates with you, I would love for you to go ahead and hit the like button, follow, and share this podcast with any fellow mom that would love to listen to this wonderful stories and just listen to this podcast overall. And if you have a story to share, a lesson, a laugh, or a moment that has changed everything, send me a message and I would love to have you as my next guest. Thank you again, Stephanie.
Me.
Hey moms, if today's episode resonated with you, I just want to quickly mention I help moms reclaim rest, balance, and peace of mind through personalized sleep and life coaching plans. If you want extra support, you can book a free consultation with me anytime. I'm linking all the details in the show notes below. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and like so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned.